So the biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign.
There's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
Bombshell court filing from late on Friday alleging the Clinton campaign paid a tech company to infiltrate servers at both Trump Tower and the White House.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
The level of admiration I actually have for China.
Turns out Hillary Clinton had people paid to hack the Trump Tower and White House, and Justin Trudeau goes full dictator. Those two stories and a little bit more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go! That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. Today is February 15th, the year of our Lord 2022. We've got two very, condensed, but also awesome stories coming at you today. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Hillary Clinton is looking like she's going to be in some big trouble with the Durham report that came out Friday. I know we said we were going to talk yesterday. We said we were going to talk about this today because we needed more time to explain everything that's going on there. Not something that's a huge shock to anybody. Maybe it is. I don't know how you look at that whole campaign. But it turns out, long story short, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty details in just a second, but long story short, Hillary Clinton and the campaign looks like they paid hackers to hack into Donald Trump's office at the Trump Tower, the executive office, and then the White House. So there's that. Then Justin Trudeau in Canada, the trucker convoy, went full dictator yesterday and basically is planning to use force to remove people from the Capitol. We've got a lot of really great clips coming up there, but I want to get to this first. This is the first thing I want to get to, and we're going to spend a decent chunk of time on this, talking about what exactly happened. Look, have you heard this story elsewhere? Probably. We're kind of waiting for all the details to come to fruition. Also had to get to a lot of stuff yesterday. But without further ado, obviously and clearly, we have to get to this whole idea of the Hillary Clinton campaign and what they did to infect the Trump campaign while they were accusing the Trump campaign of Russian collusion. I don't know if you remember the whole 4-year investigation, the Mueller report, and Adam Schiff getting on there and saying, we have hard evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. And then Hillary Clinton saying that she didn't necessarily believe the elections. Remember how that's just a right-wing thing? There's so many things going on here, and it's so juicy, but the main point is this. Before we get into what the Durham report actually said, I want to play this clip from Hillary Clinton in 2019, where she said that she believes Trump believes that he's an illegitimate president. Check this out, and then we'll...
There were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did, and I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should, but Jane, it was like applying for a job and getting 66 million letters of recommendation and losing to a corrupt human tornado. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
Of course, given the events of...
So that was Hillary Clinton in 2019 saying, well, we of course don't know everything, and history will sort itself out. Turns out history is sorting itself out because Friday, John Durham, who's a special investigator into how the origins of the Russia collusion hoax got started. So really, really brief, catch you up to speed. The Russian collusion thing was started in, 2017 when oh no, it was Russian collusion. Adam Schiff, sitting congressman of the Intelligence Committee, Robert Mueller, who did this whole investigation of was Trump colluding. Turns out, no. The Mueller investigation said, no, there was really no collusion with the Trump campaign in Russia. Well, then the government was like, well, how did this whole thing get started? Because this was the biggest story for 3 years of President Trump's 4-year term. How did this thing even get started? Then John Durham got appointed to figure out, well, what are the origins of the Russian collusion case? So the Durham investigation is what is going on now. Durham filed a report on Friday that said some interesting things regarding Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's campaign to infiltrate Trump's servers at the White House, Durham says. Special counsel John Durham released a new filing on Friday showing the Clinton campaign paid a, this is interesting terminology, so we'll rephrase in a second. The Clinton campaign paid a tech firm to infiltrate the servers at Trump Tower and later at the White House in an attempt to link former President Donald Trump to Russia. Now, when they say tech firm and infiltrate, they paid hackers to hack. The Hillary Clinton campaign if we're getting campaign, pay reconnecting. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Have some little internet glitches here today at the office. Where did we leave off? The Hillary Clinton campaign paid hackers to hack the Trump campaign and then hackers to hack the White House that then President Trump was occupying. This is all in a report from special counsel John Durham investigating the origins of the Russian collusion thing, the origin of the whole Russian collusion investigation. That's coming out on Friday, and that is interesting to see how this stuff is moving. Kash Patel, a former chief investigator to the Trump-Russia probe for the House Intelligence Committee, said the filing definitively showed the Hillary Clinton campaign directly funded and ordered its lawyers at Perkins Coie to orchestrate a criminal enterprise to fabricate a connection between President Trump and Russia, reported the Daily Mail. So a former chief investigator to the Trump-Russia probe for the House Intelligence Committee is saying that the Hillary Clinton campaign directly funded and ordered its lawyers to orchestrate a criminal enterprise to fabricate a connection between President Trump and Russia. So they used hackers to hack the Trump Tower computers and the White House computers, all in an attempt to fabricate some sort of connection between Trump and Russia, because that was what the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency was accused of. Remember how he's Vladimir Putin's puppet? Which, side note, Vladimir Putin didn't go and take an entire portion of Europe when his puppet was in office. So there's that. Per Durham, this arrangement was put in motion in July of 2016, meaning the Hillary Clinton campaign and her lawyers masterminded the most intricate and coordinated conspiracy against Trump when he was both a candidate and later the president of the United States, while simultaneously perpetrating this bogus Steele dossier hoax, Patel concluded. Essentially, in July of 2016, the then candidate Hillary tried to hack then candidate Trump's computers in Trump Tower, trying to find some sort of connection between the Trump campaign and Russia, all while promoting this whole Steele dossier nonsense that sparked the Russian collusion investigation in the first place. So, in effect, there was collusion. There was hacking involved in the 2016 presidential campaign. The only thing is, it came from the Clinton campaign and not the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign has been investigated and, for the most part, absolved of any wrongdoing in regards to interacting and hacking and all of that sort of stuff with Russia. Now, how did those questions even come up? Well, apparently, the Clinton campaign was paying hackers to hack the Trump Tower and then subsequently the Trump White House to fabricate or find some sort of Russian connection. This is crazy. Now, I want to play this clip from Donald Trump. I hope we don't lose connection here again, because that would be a shame. But this is a clip from Donald Trump on 60 Minutes when he was running against Joe Biden. Check this out. Look, if you haven't already, share the link here. Just click the like button. Click the little share button. It really helps us out and get to more people because this stuff is crazy and should be talked about everywhere. There was a Fox News clip that we're not going to play here, but it showed the minutes of coverage by every single outlet. And it was 0 minutes on ABC, 0 minutes NBC, 0 minutes on CBS. All of the big networks are not covering this story at all. So click the little like button, click the little share button. Listen to this clip from Donald Trump in 2-1. Then candidate Biden.
Put on things we can't
You
verify.
won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't
Look, let me
put
tell
on
you.
things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify
It's been totally
that.
verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers. They spied. And then they went much further than that, and they got caught. And you'll see
Now,
that.
today of all days, that we're talking about Hillary Clinton and hackers. Not entirely sure what's going on, again, with our connection feed. Hopefully that, yeah, they got to you. That's what, yeah, it's interesting that we're having trouble today of all days. When we I'm looking at the audience now, we had the biggest audience we've had, and again, today of all days are having issues with our connection. So that is that. It's going to be interesting to watch this Durham investigation continue to unfold, because remember, Trump was saying, hey, they've been hacking my campaign the entire time. They hacked me at the White House, and everybody's saying, no, there's no evidence of that. Turns out there's increasingly more evidence coming out to show that that was actually true. It appears that the Hillary Clinton campaign, at least to the Durham report, the special counsel John Durham investigation, saying, yeah, it looks like the Hillary Clinton campaign paid hackers to hack Donald Trump at the Trump Tower, and then when they didn't find anything there and he was elected president, then hacked the White House, which I think is a pretty massive freaking crime. It'll be really interesting to see how this investigation rolls out. Obviously, everybody will be keeping a close eye on the Durham investigation. I hope we don't lose. Let's see if we lose any connection going here now that we're going to swing over to Justin Trudeau. Now that seemed transfer seamlessly. Cool. So there's that. Justin Trudeau goes full dictator. I've got a lot of great clips to play. So this is a fascinating story. If you haven't heard, yesterday, Justin Trudeau issued a state of emergency for everybody in Canada to get the truckers, the protesters that are protesting the ridiculous vaccine mandate out of Ottawa. So there's that. But first, I got to tell you about this. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Inflation is going through the roof. You need to protect yourself against inflation. How do you do that? Invest in gold. Gold is the best way to hedge against inflation. Inflation was up 7.5% year over year. 40-year high. Last guy who had to deal with this was Ronald Reagan. He said inflation is like a mugger, a thief in the night that doesn't care about you or anything. It'll just take your money. How do you invest in gold, you might ask? Well, our friends at Birch Gold are here to help. If you text JOBOB to 989898, that's Jobob to 989898, our friends at Birch Gold will send you a free, no obligation, no risk, no nothing packet that teaches you everything you need to know about protecting your savings by investing in gold. If you have an existing IRA, if you have an existing 401k, you can roll those in to a gold-backed IRA and protect your financial future and your family's savings going forward. Text JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898. Protect yourself against inflation. It is at a 40-year high. You need to do it. Friend to a friend, protect yourself. JOBOB to 989898. Justin goes full dictator. I am curious to see. It is fascinating. We were talking about Hillary Clinton. I'm not a big, crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy person, But we've been having technical difficulties all morning talking about Hillary Clinton. Let's see if these technical difficulties continue to exist when we go into Justin Trudeau of Canada talking about his dictatorial powers that he now wields. Watch this clip yesterday from Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, and we'll discuss on the other side.
On Friday, Ontario invoked a state of emergency to respond to the blockades. This was the responsible and necessary thing to do. Today, to continue building on these efforts, the federal government is ready to use more tools at its disposal to get the situation fully under control. After discussing with Cabinet and caucus, after consultation with premiers from all provinces and territories, after speaking with opposition leaders, the federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address.
There's the thing that I want to get to. Reasonable and proportionate. Depends on how you define that, but if you look at the streets of Ottawa, looks like a pretty fun time, honestly. I think Tucker laid it out pretty good yesterday when he was talking about it, but let me get to, before we get to the Tucker clip, let me get to this. In a highly unusual move, the Canadian government on Monday invoked a series of emergency powers that include limits on public gatherings in a bid to end disruptive demonstrations in the capital city along the U.S.-Canadian border. End demonstrations and limits on public gathering. Effectively, Justin Trudeau has gone full dictator here and said, no, you don't get to protest unless it's protesting things that I like to protest. Remember, Justin Trudeau was a huge advocate of the BLM protests, huge advocates of protests that he likes. He said so much a couple of weeks ago when the trucker convoy was just getting to Ottawa, said, well, I enjoy protests that I agree with and don't like protests that I don't agree with. And apparently, if you protest long enough for a protest that he doesn't agree with, the Canadian government, one, is going to try and take your money from the GoFundMe accounts, the now Go Send, Give, Go, whatever that other one is. They're trying to confiscate all of that money and then forcibly remove people from the Ottawa public streets. Protesters, peaceful protesters, I might add. Watch this clip from Tucker. He lays it out pretty nicely. Evil protesters!
According to Justin Trudeau, everyone you saw in that tape is a terrorist, even the kids in their bouncy castles. Justin Trudeau has unilaterally revoked their civil liberties and authorized men with automatic weapons to haul them to jail.
So there's that. Justin Trudeau, again, Justin Trudeau, in effect, has authorized the police and the military of Canada to aggressively or with force remove those people from the streets, the protesters. Again, nobody's rioting. It's not like people are burning down buildings like we saw all throughout the United States in the BLM riots. People are just protesting a crazy rule. I feel like we forget that constantly. People talk about how he's reacting to the protesters. Like, people constantly talk about how Trudeau was reacting to the protesters and the protesters aren't leaving, and completely leave out the fact that the whole vaccine mandate is stupid. It was stupid to begin with, and the protesters have a great point that they're making. It could be very easily fixed if Trudeau just said, yeah, that vaccine mandate thing that we had is dumb, doesn't really make a difference, and won't be any use to us going forward. So we're just going to repeal that. Give the protesters what they want. You don't have to remove them forcibly with the military. Seriously, the rule was dumb. And the protesters are voicing their opinions that the rule is dumb. Give them what they want, because everybody now agrees that the rule was stupid. So there's that Trudeau is continuing to do. But I wanted to play some of these other interesting clips from Trudeau. This is Trudeau. Then this is, where do these dictatorial ideas come from, one might ask? Justin? Watch this little interesting clip.
It's quite an amazing scene.
When Castro attended Trudeau's funeral in 2000, he and Justin Trudeau shared an emotional embrace.
Hugging Fidel Castro. Interesting connection to communism and dictatorship, Justin Trudeau. That was at his dad's funeral, and Justin Trudeau embraced Fidel Castro. But if you're fair-minded at all, you would say, well, that's just a hug. That doesn't mean anything. Well, what about this clip? Does this mean something to Mr. Dictator Trudeau?
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fastest. We need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted that I find quite interesting.
Wow. I actually admire China. They have a dictatorship and they can basically do whatever they wanted, which I find quite interesting, said the current Prime Minister of Canada, who is issuing dictatorial emergency powers on citizens peacefully protesting ridiculous rules. Holy cow, man. So that's interesting. Interesting little clip coming up from Justin Trudeau's past. We'll see how that plays out in Canada. We got to hop off the air, but I did want to try this. We had no issues. And again, I'm not Tin Hat Man over here. We had no issues playing Justin Trudeau. I'm curious to see if this, I'm going to go back to this Hillary Clinton thing and see if this causes any connection issues again. Let me just play this Hillary Clinton clip and see if we have issues again. This is
I believe
weird.
He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of
Okay, I just wanted to try that to see if anything happened, because at the very beginning of this, we had, if you're paying attention early on, we had several thousand more people that are on now watching, and then we had a bunch of glitches when we started talking about Hillary Clinton. I don't think that's actually a thing, but it is interesting. That's going to do it for us today. Really appreciate you sticking around for the episode today with Daily Caller Live. Ooh, sorry about that. We will see you next time. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.